Mia wiped her hands on her apron as she glanced around the bustling restaurant. The familiar clatter of plates and hum of conversations filled the modest space, yet beneath it all, Mia felt a gentle ache of yearning. For years, she had balanced the exhaustion of long shifts with a quiet hope for something beyond this life of serving tables. The restaurant was her daily stage, a place where she greeted customers with a warm smile, hiding the fatigue behind her soft eyes. Across the room, a figure stood out sharply against the casual atmosphere. Alexander entered, commanding attention with his tailored suit and confident stride. The billionaire's reputation had preceded him, wealthy, powerful, and known for a biting wit that sometimes slipped into cruelty. Each day, without fail, he chose this unassuming spot to dine, as if testing the boundaries of his own boredom. Today, as Mia approached his table to take his order, Alexander's gaze flickered over her simple attire and unpretentious demeanor. With a smirk that barely masked disdain, he said loudly enough for nearby patrons to hear, "You must be quite comfortable serving others' fortunes while dreaming small." His words hung in the air, a deliberate provocation aimed to unsettle. Mia's smile faltered for a fraction, a flicker of hurt veiled quickly by composure. The usual chatter around her momentarily hushed as eyes turned in their direction. A ripple of discomfort passed through the room, patrons sharing fleeting glances that spoke louder than any words. As she took his order without a word, the tension tightened. Alexander's gaze lingered, a spark of something cruel flickering beneath his polished exterior. The quiet war between them had begun. Day after day, Alexander returned to the modest neighborhood restaurant, and each visit brought with it a sting sharper than the last. His presence was like a cold shadow stretching across the warm, bustling space where Mia worked. Maria's colleagues whispered behind his back, their voices thick with sympathy and unease, but no one dared confront the billionaire. As the wealthiest man in town, Alexander carried an unspoken power that silenced even the boldest protests. Mia stood behind the counter, steady and composed, as Alexander's latest remarks pierced the air. "You don't seem to grasp the futility of your position, Mia," he said aloud, his voice a razor wrapped in silk. "Serving tables all day, pretending to have hopes and dreams, yet here you are, stagnant, invisible amid the very people who think you exist." His words weren't just dismissive, they were deliberately humiliating, delivered with a smirk that twisted the kindness in Mia's eyes into something defensive. The regular patrons shifted uneasily in their seats, some exchanging glances that made her stomach knot. A couple of them snickered, others averted their eyes, unwilling to witness the slow erosion of someone's dignity. At a nearby table, a group of teenagers whispered, their laughter a quiet but cruel echo that gnawed at her resolve. Mia gritted her teeth, fighting the urge to leave, the burning shame pressing down on her chest like a stone. She wished she could disappear, fade into the background where judgments didn't sting so deeply. "Isn't this the woman who's always serving the rich folks with that polite smile?" one of the teenagers muttered. "How did she end up stuck here? Guess she's not as smart as she looks." Mia's heart hammered painfully. The room felt smaller, as if walls were closing in, trapping her in a spotlight she never sought. Her breath hitched briefly, a tremor she quickly masked. One afternoon, after staggering through a particularly degrading encounter at Alexander's hands, Mia found refuge in the small apartment she called home. The worn cushions on her faded couch cradled her as she dialed her best friend, Sarah. "I don't know how much longer I can take this," Mia confessed softly, her voice trembling with frustration. Alexander, he comes every day just to belittle me. It's like he's making it his mission to humiliate me in front of everyone. I try to smile through it, but it's exhausting, Sarah. I hate that I feel so small." Sarah's voice was a steady anchor on the other end of the line. "You're stronger than you think, Mia. Don't let him make you believe otherwise. That guy's just throwing stones, but they don't have to break your glass heart. You have so much to offer, so much more than he can see, or accept." Mia drew a shaky breath. "I know. I just wish it would stop. I want to escape the guilt of feeling ashamed." But the harassment didn't stop. Instead, Alexander seemed to relish making the restaurant his personal theater of power. Some days, he lingered long after his meal, ordering unnecessary courses, prolonging the moment until the eyes of the entire room turned to Mia, waiting for her next word or stumble. On one particular day, the restaurant was quieter than usual. The hum of voices had dimmed as Alexander unleashed a cutting remark, sharper than any before. "You really think this is where you belong, don't you? Among these simple lives and dull dreams. It must be comforting to never have to bear the weight of ambition." He leaned back with a triumphant grin, perfectly aware that every eyebrow was raised, every gaze pinned on Mia. Her cheeks burned bright, a rush of heat that threatened tears she fought hard to hold back. The tension was suffocating. Patrons averted their eyes or whispered behind cupped hands. The waiters paused, plates halfway to tables, caught between sympathy and the invisible line they dared not cross. All around her, the atmosphere crackled with a mix of discomfort and curiosity. Mia felt exposed, a vulnerable figure under the harsh scrutiny of countless strangers and the cruel confidence of the man who treated her like a joke. The silence stretched, heavy and unbearable, and for a fleeting moment, Mia wondered if she could escape, if she might slip out the back door and leave this humiliation behind forever. But Alexander's eyes met hers directly, the gleam of malice unmistakable. There was no escape today. The invisible chains of his words held tight, binding her in a moment of shame crafted on purpose. The restaurant held its breath, awaiting her response to this relentless assault on her spirit. What could she say? How could she stand tall when every ounce of confidence felt eroding beneath the weight of derision? The scene hung on a knife's edge, the whole room watching, waiting. What would you do if you were in her place? That afternoon, as the restaurant settled into a rare lull, the air thick with tension, Alexander took a different approach. The usual barbs and sneers gave way to a calculated challenge, sharp-edged and deliberate. "Tell me, Mia," he began, setting down his glass with a firm clang, "what do you really know about business? Finance? Economics? You serve meals, but I wonder if you understand the world beyond this place." The words cut through the quiet like a blade, more mocking than before, but something sparked inside Mia, a flicker of defiance that refused to be smothered. She hesitated, unsure at first, her hands trembling slightly as she balanced a tray. Yet beneath the surface, a deep well of knowledge, long buried beneath daily struggles and quiet dreams, stirred awake. "I might not look like someone with a business degree, sir," Mia said quietly, voice steady despite the crowd's sudden focus, "but I've taught myself a lot. I'm not just here serving tables." Alexander raised a brow, curiosity mingling with skepticism, as the nearby diners leaned in, sensing something different unfolding. Some exchanged skeptical looks, others with mild surprise, unsure whether to believe her. Mia took a breath, steadying herself, then launched into a confident explanation of current market trends, fiscal policies, and negotiation strategies she had studied in stolen moments after shifts and during late nights. She spoke of investment risks and economic cycles, weaving through complex theories with a clear, measured voice. The knowledge was real, solid beneath her plain exterior. Eyes widened at her articulation, a few mouths twitched in disbelief. Even Alexander's composed expression faltered, a flash of surprise briefly betraying his composed arrogance. One of the patrons, an elderly man longtime employee at an accounting firm, whispered to his companion, "I never would have guessed she knew so much. She's brilliant." Mia continued without hesitation, explaining the subtleties of corporate maneuvering and the importance of integrity in leadership, weaving in examples from her self-guided studies and past experiences. She demonstrated a grasp of concepts that few expected from someone in her position. Alexander's usual confidence wavered, his smug smile vanishing entirely as he listened intently, forced to witness the intelligence and passion emanating from the woman he had demeaned so consistently. The restaurant, once filled with murmurs of pity or derision, now buzzed with admiration and surprise. Applause quietly bloomed at the edges, rising organically as those around her recognized the depth behind her calm exterior. A few of the teenagers who had mocked her earlier exchanged sheepish looks, their earlier laughter stifled by the undeniable proof of her brilliance. Alexander glanced around, suddenly the target of smirks and whispered jokes about his own arrogance. Mia felt a new energy course through her, confidence replacing the years of quiet doubt. She stood taller, the burden of shame lifting with each word she spoke. Her voice, once soft in the face of mockery, now carried a firm certainty that compelled attention. When she finished, the room broke into applause, the sound both genuine and unexpected. Customers who had once viewed her as a simple waitress now saw the woman she could be, intelligent, capable, and far beyond their assumptions. Alexander sat back, momentarily stunned, his eyes locked on Mia with a flicker of something unfamiliar, respect, perhaps, but also a dawning recognition of how badly he had misjudged her. Silence lingered briefly before murmurs of agreement, a ripple of admiration spreading among the patrons. "They call me arrogant," Alexander finally said, voice quieter and tinged with reluctant admission, "but today you've outdone me, Mia. I underestimated you gravely." The moment marked a turning point, shifting the power dynamics in the room. Alexander, long the predator, found himself disarmed by Mia's unanticipated brilliance and composed defiance. It was clear to everyone that beneath the simple apron and tired smile lay an extraordinary mind, a hidden strength that no wealth or status could overshadow. As the gathering gradually returned to its casual rhythm, the respect toward Mia remained palpable, changing the atmosphere. Her colleagues approached with newfound warmth, some quietly congratulating her on breaking through the layers of prejudice. Even the once mocking teenagers gave her nods of approval, their previous ridicule replaced by tentative admiration. For the first time in weeks, Mia allowed herself a private smile, the satisfaction of rising above derision with grace and intelligence filling her with quiet triumph. Alexander watched her with a complexity of emotions, admiration battling pride, respect clashing with wounded ego. The realization that he had been wrong lingered, uncertain and unsettling. This challenge, initiated in cruelty, had unleashed a transformation neither of them anticipated. But the story was far from over. In the days that followed her impromptu demonstration of intellect, Mia found the atmosphere around her subtly shifting. Conversations that once skirted her presence now paused to include her. Customer glance lingered longer, colleagues offered quiet words of encouragement, and even the regulars who had once overlooked her began to see a different woman behind the waitress uniform. One evening after her shift, Alexander lingered near the doorway as Mia closed up. His posture was less stiff, less assured than usual, an unspoken invitation for conversation. Mia felt a flutter of nervous anticipation as she gathered her things. She approached him cautiously. "Why did you come here every single day?" she asked quietly. "To mock me?" Alexander swallowed hard, a shadow crossing his usually imperious face. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," he said, voice low. "I thought it would entertain me, to see someone so far removed from my world. But I was wrong. You're not at all what I expected." Mia nodded slowly, sensing layers beneath his arrogance peeling away. "There's more to me, isn't there?" He glanced around, as if seeking an answer in the dim light of the restaurant, then met her eyes. "You said you taught yourself business and finance. Why aren't you in that world?" Mia sighed, resting her hands on the worn countertop. "I worked in corporate finance before. For years, I climbed the ladder. But life isn't always about titles and money. When my mother fell ill, I left that life behind to care for her. That meant shifting priorities, wearing simpler clothes, and choosing a humble job here that allowed me to stay close. I wanted authenticity, connection. I didn't want the cost of ambition to be my family." Alexander's expression softened, shadows retreating. "I never would have guessed." "Neither would I," Mia admitted with a half smile. "I didn't want anyone to know the past because, well, people judge. Simple dress means simple life in their eyes. But I'm proud of who I am, even if it doesn't look flashy. Her words settled between them, sincere and unguarded. Mia felt the vulnerability of honesty strip away the last of her doubts. Alexander's gaze held something new: respect, yes, but also a deep curiosity. "Why didn't you tell anyone here?" he asked. "I think they assume you're just a waitress dreaming small." "They did," Mia said softly. "That's the thing about appearances. People decide before they understand." He nodded slowly. "And yet, when you spoke the other day, it changed everything." "It was a moment I couldn't hide behind silence," she said. "A chance to show that I'm not defined by my job or my clothes." Alexander paused, then added quietly, "I imagine people like me don't often see the full story. We get caught in assumptions too." Mia looked at him with something like empathy. "It's easy to forget everyone has a story." They stood there for a moment, the warmth of the restaurant wrapping around them, the ordinary space transformed into something charged with possibility. As Mia shared more about her journey, the long nights studying finance while juggling shifts, the joys and sacrifices of caring for her mother, and her dream of opening a community cafe to support others like herself, Alexander listened intently. He realized that the woman he had mocked was a far cry from the easy target he imagined. She was resilient, thoughtful, and rich in character beyond any bank balance. For the first time, Alexander didn't see Mia through the lens of status or wealth. He saw a genuine person, shaped by life's challenges and choices. Their dialogue opened a door that had long been closed between worlds: the billionaire and the waitress, two lives intersecting in unexpected ways. It was clear that this connection would lead somewhere beyond the confines of the restaurant walls. Mia felt a quiet anticipation, a sense that whatever came next would not just redefine how others saw her, but how she might rewrite her own story. Alexander, too, was unmoored from his usual certainty, beginning to understand that wealth and power didn't hold all the answers. The stage was set for a transformation that neither could have fully predicted, a meeting of minds and hearts far more complex than the surface had shown. The restaurant, once a place of division and judgment, became a site of possibility and new beginnings. In the gentle glow of evening lights, beneath the hum of quiet conversation, two people from different worlds found common ground, and a tentative hope for the future. In the days that followed their heartfelt conversation, a subtle but significant change unfolded at the restaurant. Alexander's visits took on a different tone, less about dominance and spectacle, and more about genuine interest and respect. The scoffing remarks vanished, replaced by thoughtful questions and occasional smiles directed at Mia. He no longer hungered for spectacle; instead, he found himself captivated by the woman who had quietly challenged his assumptions and ignited a curiosity that went beyond his boardroom walls. Word of Alexander's shift spread among the restaurant staff, and their attitudes softened in turn. The colleagues who had once whispered sympathy without action now felt emboldened to treat Mia with open kindness and camaraderie. Customers, too, seemed to perceive a newfound warmth radiating from her, a quiet confidence born from having been seen, not merely looked at. Yet the transformation was not without repercussions. Alexander's business circle, notorious for its ruthless pride, responded sharply to news of his changed conduct. His closest advisors questioned his distraction, murmuring that his conduct in the neighborhood eatery was beneath him, damaging his reputation. A few sly comments reached Alexander's ears about softening, losing his edge, and being bested by a waitress. One afternoon, in a private meeting with his executives, Alexander faced pointed questions about his judgment. "Sir," one senior partner said with thinly veiled smugness, "perhaps it's time to reconsider your priorities. Your personal involvement seemed to be compromising your leadership." Alexander listened quietly, the usual defiant spark in his eyes dimmed but not extinguished. The humiliation he had once inflicted on Mia now echoed in his own life, a mirror reflecting his vulnerability and transformation. Behind the scenes, he wrestled with pride and humility. His self-awareness grew, and with it, a determination not to let societal expectations dictate his future actions. Meanwhile, Mia's life blossomed in unexpected ways. Encouraged by Alexander's support, not charity, but partnership, she began sketching plans for the community cafe she had dreamed of for years. A space that would welcome people from all walks of life, where dignity was measured not by income or appearance but by kindness and openness. With Alexander's financial backing, she secured a small but charming location near the restaurant. It became a beacon of hope and connection in the neighborhood, staffed by locals seeking meaningful work and camaraderie. The cafe quickly became a gathering spot where stories were shared and friendships forged, an embodiment of Mia's values in action. As the seasons changed, so did the relationship between Mia and Alexander. What began as an encounter of oppressor and oppressed evolved into a partnership built on mutual respect, shared ideals, and genuine affection. One crisp autumn evening, under a sky flushed with the soft glow of twilight, Alexander invited Mia to a quiet dinner at a secluded garden restaurant. The tension between them held a new quality, tender and hopeful, far removed from their earlier battles. After a meal filled with laughter and deep conversation, Alexander reached across the table, taking Mia's hand in his. "Mia," he said, voice steady but filled with emotion, "I came to this restaurant a man who thought size and wealth defined strength. But you've shown me that true strength lies in kindness, resilience, and integrity. I cannot imagine my life without you." He paused, eyes searching hers. "Will you marry me?" Mia felt the words wrap around her heart, a mixture of surprise, disbelief, and a quiet joy blooming from deep within. She looked at Alexander, not just the billionaire, but the man who had grown, learned, and changed through their journey together. "Yes," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. "Yes, I will." Their embrace sealed a transformation, not just of their relationship but of the barriers society often places between people. Alexander later took steps to address his behavior publicly. In a candid message to his staff and associates, he acknowledged the mistakes he had made in underestimating and mistreating Mia and others. He expressed remorse and a commitment to fostering humility and respect in all his dealings. Though some in his circle refused to accept his change, the shift in Alexander's perspective became undeniable, earning him a measure of respect for his honesty and growth. Mia, for her part, continued to build her community cafe, welcoming all with open arms. She became a symbol of resilience and quiet strength, a woman who refused to be defined by circumstance or appearance. Her story inspired many who saw in her a reflection of their own struggles and dreams. In interviews, when asked about her journey from waitress to businesswoman and partner of one of the city's most prominent figures, Mia often smiled and said, "I didn't change who I am, I just stopped letting others decide who I should be." The restaurant where their story began remained a place of bittersweet memories, a reminder that prejudice and ridicule can be overcome by courage and kindness. And as their lives intertwined, Mia and Alexander built a future together, grounded in respect, love, and a shared belief that people are far more than the roles they occupy. To all who watched their story unfold, this was more than a tale of social barriers crossed. It was a testament to the power of humility, understanding, and transformation. How would you have reacted if put in Mia's place? Would you stand firm, rise above, or retreat? If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe. See you in our next story.